Good evening. It is the American Scouser TV EPL panel show. ASTV, as the cool kids will call it after tonight, or they'll abandon us, one or the other. I either make things or break things. That's my gig in life. We're joined tonight by Shay, a Villa fan. How are you, Shay?
Doing good. How are you today?
Not too bad. And we have Alan from Chicago, an Arsenal fan. How are you, Alan?
Good.
Awesome stuff. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk tonight about the games from the weekend, the scores, and we'll pick on 2 or 3 games to talk about that will have been significant in one way or the other. We'll talk about Mbappe saying he's not going to stay with PSG and up for grabs. I would say, imagine, he's off the Forest. They're buying all the players, so he has to go there, and they can breach FFP again. And not get punished for it. We'll talk about the blue cards, whether we like that idea or don't like that idea, and whether colorblind players are going to have an issue with it. And then we'll talk about the games to come for this weekend, because there's a lot of big ones and important ones to come for pretty much all 3 clubs that are represented here tonight. But we do enough Liverpool stuff on ASTV, so we'll talk more about all the other clubs around us. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the games for the week. So here we have City v Everton. I think that was inevitable. That was absolutely put your house on it. I should have actually put my mortgage on it. I would have been able to pay it. Spurs beating Brighton. Forest and Newcastle being a tight one, so that might be one we want to talk about. Fulham, for our friend, won against Bournemouth. Crystal Palace losing to Chelsea. That's foregone conclusion at this point. But Arsenal and West Ham we'll talk about, because we'll talk about the Arsenal side, but I think the West Ham side deserves a chat of its own. And then Villa and United, that requires some sort of forensic analysis to know what happened there. But we'll start with Forest and Newcastle, because it's the neutral game. Eddie Howe has that fantastic reputation. Newcastle have all of that money, but they're making things hard for themselves, Alan, aren't they? It's almost like, and I hate to say it because I like Eddie Howe, but it's almost like they need a bigger manager for what their resources are now. What do you think?
I agree. I think Eddie Howe he isn't the guy to take them to the next level, and if they're going to go on to that next level and compete, especially with the money that they've been spending and the players that they've gotten, the players that they got are world-class players. Isak is a world-class striker. They got Guimaraes as well, who's really good. They have really good. All together, it's a great team. And to not be firing on all cylinders and making that step to being title challengers from reaching top 4 last year is kind of disappointing. That's what you want to see, the progression, but at the same time, it could also be this thing where, like, maybe even these players themselves, like, overshot themselves and overachieved, and now that they had to deal with a European schedule and also deal with the pressure of being in the top 4 when you have Liverpool, who's back up from last year, and United also somewhat being better from last year, that changes things. So
Shay, as the villain, I think we talked about the last time about the difference in how Villa were playing when Gerrard was there, and almost a complete 180 within, I think maybe it was 4 or 5 games. You could see Unai Emery's imprint on that team, and he's done a fantastic job. I'm a huge admirer of Unai Emery, and I'm not going to talk too much about how it didn't work out for my Arsenal, Alan, but it should have worked out for my Arsenal. But he couldn't say evening properly, and that should get you fired from any job. But Shay, for Eddie Howe, Klopp had a bad season for Liverpool last year. We had, an aging team, but he fixed that problem, and far better than even us Liverpool fans expected. Unai Emery has you guys at one point challenging for the league. It may be a little bit gone for it to be a league challenger along with Spurs right now. The gap might be getting a bit wider, but you are definitely in pole position to take a top 4 spot, and maybe should one of Liverpool, Arsenal, or City collapse, maybe a top 3 spot, that manager effect is such an important thing. If you were a Newcastle owner, are you looking at the rest of the season and going, Eddie's not the guy, and I need to get somebody in who can be the guy?
Yep. I mean, like you said, I think I don't know. I think he's a good manager, but to take him farther, maybe. But with their injury concerns, I think that definitely hampered his play style that he wanted to play. Like, he's playing without a striker right now. Like, they finally got Wilson back, so he may be able to turn it on. But Alan said, the owners have the money, they're willing to spend. Maybe they just need that coach to, give them that kickstart. And I hate to say it, there's a few out there, but maybe if they somehow could get Julian Nagelsmann to come over. I know he's still on the market, but like, that's somebody that they could truly go after. They may not do. They'll let Eddie, I think, finish the season out because it would be crazy to do it, obviously, because they're not in any true turmoil. They're still in the top 10. They're still competing, and it's not like they're going to get relegated anytime soon. But when the season's finished, depending on how and where they finish, that's an option for them. They're going to go out for new coaches, and there's going to be quite a few free agent coaches available, or they make a big move like how Villa did, just go and get a really good coach that's coaching at a team right now and just like, hey, we want to make that next push. We're willing to pay the money to do it. So it'll be interesting to see.
Alan, I don't want to hark back to Liverpool because it's not a Liverpool-centric show tonight or any night for the panel show, but yourself, Jurgen Klopp put a plan together to do whatever needed to be done in the cup game, and we put a bunch of kids on and we still managed to win it. Everybody was writing Arsenal off as a title contender a month ago, maybe, but you're right back up there again. Arteta is, for all the jokes we have about his hairstyle, and it's the worst hairstyle in the league, let's be honest about that. And I'm saying that as somebody with no hair who's absolutely jealous of you two being able to style your hair and your fulsome locks. But that joking aside, he has got Arsenal from a down period in the season to being right back in contention for the league all over again. That is a difference maker that Eddie Howe just doesn't seem to have within him. My controversial, if you're a Newcastle fan or an Eddie Howe fan, opinion is that as much as that partnership gets talked about between him and his assistant coach, is it effectively a leaderless partnership? And maybe the Newcastle players pick up on that. And so there's no inspiration from the bench, from the managers, because they don't know who's going to be the leader. Eddie Howe is the figurehead, but it's the other guy who's doing all the shouting and the ranting and the raving and probably the motivation as well. Is that mix just not working out for Eddie Howe in Newcastle right now?
I don't think it is. I don't think they really work together really well anymore. Maybe at the start when they first took over the team, but I think Tyndall's his name, I believe, right? Yeah. He seems to be more. He wants to be more of the manager. He wants to be more of the guy. Whether he's the right choice over at Newcastle is yet to be seen. If they were to move on, I honestly, it's either or, it's not working out at all. Like, they need, I think, for Newcastle to succeed, they need to look up and see who's being successful in clubs that are in the same kind of category as them, that clubs that weren't really looked at as being going to be successful in a day or 1 year, and then all of a sudden be challenging for the title and knocking out giants. I'm talking about Xabi Alonso for Newcastle. That would be the manager for them to get if they want to take the next level, and that's someone that fits their profile. They're a team that is not being looked up right now as being title contenders, to all of a sudden they can be if they were to be if they were to get someone like Xabi.
Let me just follow up on that, Alan. Obviously, from the Liverpool perspective, Xabi being a Liverpool legend as a player, and Klopp leaving at the end of the season, he's much sought after. But some of the feeling amongst us is that he's not experienced enough yet for Liverpool, especially if we win any trophies this year. Whoever comes in next is taking over a winning team, and you either stay at that level or you go rapidly downhill. But I think you're right. Is Newcastle the perfect profile for Xabi Alonso, as much as he might be the perfect coach for them? That's for you, Alan.
Oh, Yeah, I think. Sorry. I'm also kind of dealing with some family stuff, but no. Yeah, I think Xavi could definitely be the right coach for them. He'd be a good fit there for them. He's taken a side like Bayer Leverkusen and done a really good job over there. I think last year was his first season over there, and overnight, just taking the team from top four to being title challengers to even knocking at the door of something that hasn't been seen in German football. I don't think is being invincible. So I think only Juventus have done it, and of course my lovely Arsenal have done it. So
And Celtic.
and Celtic have done it too, which is
Oh, no.
amazing. Yeah.
But Shay, for you as a Villa fan, when Gerrard was doing a terrible job at the end. I mean, I don't think you're in the relegation zone, but scarily enough close to it. When he was fired, when Unai Emery was announced, was that a sense of for you guys? I mean, he had such success with Sevilla. Was it a sense of okay, here's a winner coming in. He knows how to get a team to win. Or was it a case of he's just a fancy name? He's the flavor of the month now. He's another another media darling type name that they want to throw out, and let's see what happens. Because it seems to me like that's what our trepidation is about Xabi Alonso right now. Is until he wins that league with with Bayer Leverkusen, he doesn't have the pedigree that you would expect from a Liverpool manager following one of our most successful ones. But for Newcastle, as you as a Villa fan, if you're a Newcastle fan and somebody of the Unai Emery stature comes in, is that going to excite them, or is that going to make them, go, oh, we got to drink some more Newcastle, some Newcastle Blue Neal.
It's definitely exciting because I mean, like I said, for us when we, the rumor mills after Gerrard, they're like, all right, who's it going to be? It was the same rumor mills again. Andre Villas-Boas, which I haven't seen him coach in years, so I don't know where he's at.
I think he's in the Paris Dakar Rally. I think that's what he does now. He does.
I don't know where he's at, but like it's like coaches like that coached in the Premier League a couple years ago that were at bigger teams. They're like, oh, these are the guys that are going to come and get. And then you see out of nowhere the owner flies to Sevilla to sit down with Unai Emery. He's like, hey, here's our project. You see what we have. I want you to coach it because he saw his background. He saw the resume and he saw it. So I feel like with Xabi, he's in that kind of that period now. Like, hey, he took over this Bayer Leverkusen team that's always had a lot of talent. I mean, we've bought two of their best players the last 2 years. So, like, they probably love Villa for just spending buku's amount of money on their wide players. But they have a team that's very young and that has a lot of talent, and he's been able to unlock all these because, like, I mean, I know it's FIFA, but when you look at that team is very good. They're competing with Bayern, and they truly haven't spent money. And I think that's also a very big, a big selling point because he's going to come to a team like Newcastle that has money. I know we've talked about this, like how right now no one's really spent it. I think this summer,
I think they spent 100 million over the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, over the last 2 seasons. So like I feel like they're going to come in this summer and like they'll give him maybe not free reign, but give him a good little war chest if they do hire him. Like this is all potential, and have him hit like hey, come in. You like how Alan said, like they have really good players already. It's a good core, kind of like how Villa were with Emery came. Like this is the same team that Gerrard coached, just he couldn't get it. And here comes Emery, who's got the pedigree, and this team is competing for top 6, top 4 almost. So it could be a good, interesting thing. But like I said, even for Liverpool, if he came in, I still feel it'd be the same thing. He's going to come in. He got a good team. I think he's just got that coaching, and then he can probably get with the players more as he's been in the club. He's played for him. I think that's a big selling point for him as well.
Alan, let's flip to Forest because they sacked Steve Cooper. They brought in Nuno Espirito Santo of the greatest beard in coaching history. But results have been mixed, just as they were under Steve Cooper. Were they right to make that move? Was Steve Cooper jettisoned too early, maybe? Or did they just need that change to give the players a little bit of oomph? Because it was a home game and it was a tight game. But Newcastle may not be there for the taking, but this was probably the right time to play them.
Yeah, it was definitely the right time to play them. Newcastle had injuries at this match, and then I agree that Steve Cooper, even though I've had so many things to say about him as being the ugliest manager in the Premier League.
He looks like he's falling asleep.
Yeah, that's too. But honestly, he took that Nottingham team from being like almost bottom of the championship to promotion. And had it, did everything he could to make sure the team survived last year, and then stay up. And then this year they're in the same position now as they're can they survive this season? Luckily for them, they have Everton has like negative 10 points right now. Luton is also right below them. So who knows if Luton's just going to fall apart eventually towards the end of the season if they try to stay up. But as far as like changing the coach, I didn't see it and I didn't understand it when it happened. And Nuno, he did well at Wolves, but he did well at Wolves because he was able to select the players that he wanted, and now he's coming into a team where that they don't, these aren't his players. These aren't the players that he selected. The same problem that he had at Tottenham. Tottenham realized that really quick, and they were like, "Oh, he's got to go," and we brought in Antonio Conte to also only celebrate being in fourth. So there's that too. But yeah, no, like I think Nottingham made a mistake. I think they should have waited to the end of the season, see where they were, even if it cost survival. Honestly, in this season where you have Burnley, Sheffield, Luton, and Everton below you, survival's guaranteed. Even if you have Steve Cooper, I think it's going to be one of those four teams. Nottingham maybe, but I don't think it'd be them. It's going to be the four teams below them.
Let's go look at the scores again. We'll go for we'll pull the Band-Aid off, Shay. Yep. Aston Villa United. You guys have been doing fantastic this season. It's a good thing because Emery is such a nice manager. Like he's just a genuine guy. Like almost like the completely understated version of Jurgen Klopp. Like he's there for the team. Like you could see him being there for 10 years if he's allowed to be. He's not a club hopper by any stretch. But United are in disarray. And on our Thursday show this week, we talked about how Erik ten Hag was one of the flavors of the month. The lollipop that everybody wanted to lick at Ajax, and it just hasn't worked out as well as everybody expected at United, which is a basket case at the best of times. But still, the quality of their football and the quality of Aston Villa's football on paper, it should have been a standard tight win, but a win nonetheless. So you tell us, as the Villa fan among us tonight, what happened with Villa in that game? Was it a United masterclass, or was it just mistakes? Or the season catching up to Villa?
I would say 100% mistakes, because when you actually look at it, we truly did have control of the game the whole time. They got that one lucky chance, and then I feel like our injuries have finally caught up with us. We got some good news today that Tyrone Mings is back in training. I don't know if he's fully fit. I wouldn't rush it because I tore my ACL at the same time he did. Granted, I don't have millions of dollars to get back in peak game shape, clearly, but to be back into training after a major injury like that. But we only have two center backs truly healthy right now. Konsa's going to be done. They just said Boubacar Kamara tore his ACL during that match too. So it's like now we're kind of getting into that time of, oh, do we actually have enough depth to maintain this push and still with the Conference League? But I mean, in that match, they got their first goal early, and then we were constantly on the front foot. We can't score right now. I think that's the issue that we've run into, and that's kind of a thing with Emery's teams. I think it happened at Arsenal as well. He did really well at one point, and then he comes to those. And I'm not saying him; it's the players. 100%. It's not Emery. He's not the one out there scoring goals, but the players just forget how to score goals, and I think that's just what's kind of biting us in the butt right now. We can't finish. We got that one goal with Dougie. He got the awesome, the meme, the little shimmy, which is hilarious. I love it. And then they end up scoring in the 88th minute. Scott McTominay comes out of nowhere and buries it. I'm just like, what is this? They truly, really didn't play that well. When I saw a lot of the reactions from the United fans too, obviously they were overjoyed, but they even said it too. They didn't play that great. We just gave it to them. So we got this next few stretches of games. I know we have to play Spurs. If we could beat them, that would be a big time for us, and just maintain the
Beat them.
beat them.
Just beat them. Just beat them.
I think that's what it is. It's just the injuries, man. I feel like they're finally catching up to us, unfortunately.
Before I go to Alan there, please tell me that Tyrone Mings' nickname is Mings the Merciless.
Mings? Well, I don't know.
That's a Flash Gordon reference for all of us old people that might be watching. Ming the Merciless. Alan, as obviously somebody with experience of Unai Emery, is what Shay's saying accurate? Is that something you experienced at Arsenal when he was at Arsenal, where you just stopped scoring, but everything else seems to be okay? And maybe was injuries a thing? Is that a pattern in his career where the players are almost run into the ground, that they do start to get injuries at the wrong time of the season? Not that there's ever a good time to get injuries, right, but you definitely don't want them at the end.
Well, with Arsenal, he started that run of 18 games unbeaten when he first came on, and it still didn't lead. It's funny, they went on 18 games unbeaten. A lot of them were draws during that spell, and then after that, he had a good selection of his team, like throughout his tenure at Arsenal. I don't think there was major injuries to that team. Again, that team wasn't even that great. I mean, we had Mustafi, Socrates, Bellerin, Monreal was our best defender in that back four. And then, as far as like midfielders, we really didn't have much there. Ozil past his prime and being paid overpaid. Xhaka, who was not playing well at the time, all of a sudden, and he was the captain of the team. For Emery, it was just bad luck, bad time. Not the right players there at Arsenal right now. For Villa, it's I think it's clicking. It's going well. He's had injuries over at Villa, and he's had the players that he has are really good players. I think Villa has a really good squad. I think he can turn this around, in my opinion. He's what? It's not even a matter of fact of turning it around. It's about
not turning around. It's just
it's about getting
closing the games again.
Yeah,
truly,
it's closing the games.
It's mistakes, and like I said, I don't know if that's. I think it's more of the players not used to being like that. Because you got to realize too, like most of the squad is either new or like they're with us in the championship. Like they're still young. Like we've had Douglas Luiz since he's been 20-something years old. McGinn came from Hibs. This is the highest he's ever been. They're doing really well. It's just, like I said, great. It's a little bit of inexperience, injuries. Not hurting. I think this is our 4th ACL tear. So like, I don't know if it's conditioning, training, or just the way that the game is now. Like these guys are just running constantly and their knees are going out. Yeah. Like unfortunately, with the amount of how much effort these players are putting in.
It's those Castori shirts. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's why we're getting Adidas now finally.
Oh, that's awesome. I look forward to that. I like
about time. Our owner literally is like the main board member.
Let me ask you about this. I'll go with Alan first, but Arsenal, Villa, Liverpool, City, Spurs, pretty much the top 5. If you were to put any game with any of our teams that we were talking about there, change the color scheme of the entire thing, you would pretty much be able to identify which team was which. You'd be able to say, oh, that's Spurs. They might be in a different, I don't know any of those players because we've blurred them out, but that's a Spurs team because I can tell by the high offside line. Or that's City. They're pressing for 6 seconds and then they're just keeping the ball for the rest of the game. Or that's Liverpool. It's heavy metal football. Press, counter press. Villa, they're so structured. Like Emery is probably one of the best tactical coaches in the league, if not top 3 tactical coaches in the league. Those players know what they're doing. They know how to move the ball. They're very tight in the middle and they're not giving a lot away. Arsenal, you can tell Arteta's team, they're very technical. There's a lot of one-touch pass and there's a lot of nice little combinations. Manchester United, I've watched them several times this season because I like to see them lose. It's one of my small pleasures in life. But Alan, there's no identifiable way that Manchester United play this season. It's kind of all over the shop. Is that what's really behind how badly they're doing for the resources they have, because they really should be up there challenging for the league, shouldn't they? In terms of wage bill, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a different team almost every week, in not just in players, but in style of play.
Style of play, like the way the players are, just not gelling together at all. Actually, I got to correct myself from earlier today. I did said that United were a team that were coming back, and that's why I believe you said Newcastle wasn't coming back. I meant to say Tottenham, but I hate to say Tottenham all the time because they're going well. But no, United was finished in third, and now they're struggling to even look inside Europe right now, even the top 5 right now. So like they don't have any identity, and that's the problem with Ten Hag, is that in order for them to challenge, they need some kind of set system of how to play, how they're going to go out games. It's like you said, we know how each 5 of these teams are going to show up and play. Whether even Tottenham has an identity with Postecoglou, as much as I hate to say that. Villa is doing well under Emery. City and Liverpool have their set ways. They've had the same coach for almost 10 years. Arsenal again is like, with Arteta, things are finally clicking. It's fluidity of football. Every player knows where they need to be. Every player fills a spot whenever there's a space. They move the ball like they need to. But with United, are they going to park the bus today? Are they going to counterattack today? Are they going to be possession based today? Are they going to be pressing? They're going to do this, that. Just stop. Just stop, Ten Hag. Just do something that works. You did well at. I mean, maybe it's because Ajax is more of like a youth academy team than anything. Like they build up from the youth, and then in United, it's all these different personalities, these great players, and he can't handle that, and that's why he can't decide a shape or anything.
I think that's the biggest thing. I don't think he can handle the older players that have actually played.
Yeah,
because like you can't, like how you said, Alan, like from the youth kids, they're bringing them in as young, and he can mold them how he wants them to play, because they're like sponges. They're gonna take everything.
Garnacho is a really good player.
Yeah,
could be successful if Ten Hag can get his shit together. Sorry.
I think Alan makes a good point though about Ajax. They have a defined culture as a club. Every single and the manager doesn't dictate that. It's the coach and the sporting directors and the president. And every single team at Ajax plays the exact same formation, the exact same style of play. They'll pass the exact same patterns, etc., etc., etc. So if you go into the Ajax team, you don't have a choice. You've got to play the way Ajax are going to play. And I'm sure Barcelona is pretty much the same. Real Madrid is just, let's buy the best players, then hope it works out for us, and it usually does. But Shay, looking at United, we love to laugh at United. It's always a good thing. Not only do they have that lack of direction, that lack of a central philosophy, but the players seem to be spoiled brats as well, or at least some of them do. It's really a bad combination if you're a United fan to be watching that and not know what kind of team is going to turn up each week. Because sometimes they have looked like war beaters. Like they look like a good solid team against us when we only drew 0-0 with them there at Anfield. But then they'll go play like Brighton or Luton, and they look like they've never kicked the ball between each other in their lives. Is the immaturity of the players and maybe the lack of strength of leadership of Ten Hag combining to make this Manchester United probably one of the worst Manchester United sides, at least in the last 20 years.
Oh, for sure. Like, how we talked about last week of like similar to Chelsea, they just have all these new players come in. There's no leadership or experience. And for United, I would say they have they have more of the personnel for it. I just don't think they're the true leaders. Like Bruno Fernandes, as much as I hate that guy so much, like he should be the one stepping up for these players and like getting them, in shape, but he doesn't do it. So the fact that they always make him captain, they always kiss up to him like, oh, he's so good. Like he's a terrible leader. And then you have Harry Maguire, which I think he's probably a good leader, but he's just not good. So like his lack of skill of just not being a good soccer player affects his actual leadership. So, you see these players like, we're not going to take serious from Harry or, Maguire. Like they've seen how big of a doofus he is. And then like Alan said, you have Garnacho, who's super young. Now they have this new kid, the CDM. What's his name? Is it Manoy or Manu? Like super young, like what Ten Hag wants these young players to come in, but he doesn't have the experience of the whole league. Like I don't know what they're gonna do. And then for them, spending money is not truly going to solve it. Like, that's not going to fix anything. They have to, how you said, they need to find a style. And maybe Ten Hag just needs to, for like 2 or 3 games in a row, just pick one style and make sure it works. You can't switch it out like, hey, we're going to play counter. Which, I mean, as a tactician, you're supposed to obviously adjust to each team you play. But they, like how you said, they don't have a true style. Like this upcoming week, tomorrow, they may play a completely different style that we haven't seen since the beginning of the season. You just don't know what you're going to get.
Let's move on now for the highest scoring game of the week. West Ham against Arsenal, Alan. Obviously, you would be delighted with that. But were you expecting that kind of a score? Because West Ham, not only did they fall apart on the field, they fell apart off the field as they streamed out of the stadium at half time. Good loyal cockneys that they are, apples and pears, knees up, Mother Brown, etc. But they did get their knees up and they walked out. But from your point of view, that was a good game to win. Keeps everything tight at the top, keeps in the conversation legitimately, not just as a trailing leg. But was this a case of West Ham were just not at the races and Arsenal had the talent and the weapons to take advantage of it, or was this a true tale of superiority?
I think it's a true tale of superiority. They, I think, and part of it too is that Arsenal came in with a chip on their shoulder because of how often West Ham has had their number lately. They beat them. They basically derailed their title chances last year. They took them out of the EFL Cup this year. They lost to them in December in the league, and so Arsenal came in there with a chip on their shoulder, and we're going to be like they're still high from the win against Liverpool, and they took everything against them and just destroyed them, and that's what they wanted to do. They wanted mission accomplished, and that was it. Declan Rice scoring that screamer of a goal. Oh my God. And then to show the respect that he did, I respect that. I would do the same if I scored a goal against Arsenal.
As an Irishman, I wouldn't associate respect with Declan Rice. For that's his name, Declan Rice.
Oh, okay, that's fair. That's
now,
fair.
Forever.
Understood.
But let me ask you, Shay, as a Villa fan, competing for those spots and looking at Arsenal above you, did that kind of give you a number one, a hint of what can happen for Villa if they stick with Emery over the next 2 or 3 seasons? Because there were times when I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Alan, but there were times when Arteta looked like things may not work out for him, and then just suddenly came together, which probably was fantastic as a fan. But for Emery, if you stick with him, that could be Villa consistently challenging for the top 3 spots, if not the league itself. Especially who knows what's going to happen with us next year without Klopp, and there's a spot up for grabs possibly. Did you look at that and see, this is, on one hand, this is great. If we stick with Emery, we could be that team that can put these 6-0 wins together and challenge for the league and be 2 points off the top. And did you also go maybe, crap, they won. that puts more distance between us and them now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like I said, any kind of consistency, if you can keep up with them, I think that's going to be huge for us because we need to have some stability. And I feel like that's why Emery was brought in. And like I've said, before, like the owners are fully invested in Emery, buying his childhood team, buying all these other clubs. Like they're fully invested into that. And then seeing Arsenal, they're finally, how Alan said, they're clicking again and getting back to it, back in that title race. So it was good to see them beat West Ham that bad because, hey, it's always fun to see fans leave at like the 24th minute, spend all that money. Like I said, when I went to that Chelsea match, it's crazy. That's not like American sports where, they leave after all the time. Like when you leave like that, having to get on the train back to the car park, a terrible ride. Like I experienced it. I know they did not like that, but seeing them actually put on a full performance, like it was dominant. Like I said, watching it, like West Ham looked terrible. Like Kurt Zuma and whoever their other center back didn't look like they were trying to play. Like they're just like, yeah, you know what? Go ahead and score. We're trying to lead the stadium as well. But it's making for a good end of the season now. Like I said, they're only 2 points off the top, tied with Liverpool. Like the top 4 title race is back on. We're not going to have a full runaway like we did the last couple of years. So that's always good to see. As also a fan of the sport. Like, yes, I'm a Villa fan, but I also like chaos. So
as painful as it will be to my heart and the well-being of my sanity, I want to see a final day between the three teams.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I have a heart condition there, Alan, so I'm not looking forward to that at all.
No, that's not good.
No, only kidding. So let's do this. Let's just look at the league table. I mean, we all three of us get to talk because we're in the top, all in the top five. Liverpool's still at the top, only by 2 points, and City have that game in hand. Arsenal, I mean, like the goal difference there is the telling thing for me. There's only one goal in it. Spurs and Villa, like it's probably going to be that defensive frailty for both of those teams that has kept them out of the title challenge, but certainly separates them from Manchester United, whose goal difference is 0. That's a proper mid-table goal difference. So I think my feeling is it's Spurs and Villa challenging for the 4th spot. And then who knows what's going to happen with United. But Newcastle, West Ham, 8th. That's bizarre given how bad they can be sometimes. But down at the bottom, Everton, Burnley, Sheffield United. Everton possibly going to get hit with another FFP punishment. So, we'll be delighted with that as Liverpool fans. We've been trying to flush that turd for decades. It'll be good if it happens. But that's the league table. It's if you're a neutral fan or a non-top Big Six club, whatever you want to call that, it's going to be an exciting end of the year, isn't it, boys?
Yep,
it's going to be fun.
This has probably been the most evenly matched, like from top to bottom of like the league. Truly, like there's not like a clear, concise like, oh hey, we already know this team's getting relegated. Like Sheffield somehow still kind of in it. There's a chance for them to do it. Obviously, if Everton get that minus 10 points again, they're down. That would be crazy. But the fact that how we all wrote Luton off at the very beginning of this season, I remember the first show of the podcast, we all had Luton, unfortunately. Look at them. Just chugging along.
Chugging along and giving a lot of teams struggles. Like they're giving Liverpool struggle, United struggle, Arsenal. Oh my key.
My theory is that in the away dressing room, they have pictures of the 1980s team with the short shorts that were so tight. You could see the testicle hairs. That's how bad they were. And that just puts everybody off. So let's move on to the next thing, which, I mean, it really should be a one-sentence topic. The blue cards potential to come in. I have coached high school over here, and there was a rule previously from 2006 when I started till about 2014, I believe, where if you got a yellow card in a high school soccer game, you had to leave the field for 10 minutes. You could get subbed for that 10 minutes, but you had to leave nonetheless. And it was ridiculous. It just messes up the flow of the game as far as I'm concerned, but they're seriously considering it at the professional level. Shay, what are your thoughts about this? Is it a good thing, or is it just the people at the top who don't really know the game as anything other than a commodity trying to do something that they think will bring in more money, but will maybe force fans away from it?
Like how you just said, like, I don't know if these people actually watch the sport. Like, I don't know who's in charge of the Football Association. Like, are these former footballers? I don't believe it, because this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Like, this is trying to turn it into hockey. We're not hockey. I know hockey is very similar to soccer. You have your forwards, wingers. They play similar, obviously.
Offsides.
Offsides, and, you can't do half these things. But basically, that's what they want to do, like how hockey does. Like, you had a foul play, go sit in the penalty box for 3 minutes and have a power play. That's literally what it's going to turn into. Like, that's the goofiest thing I've ever seen and heard. And how you said it's going to ruin the flow of the game. Like, I think they said if for some reason, say a goalie gets a blue card, they have to sit out for 10 minutes. Then you have to throw either the striker or the center back there to, to take over his spot. Like, that. It's dumb. Like, we already have the yellow for a reason. You do something, you get a yellow card. Don't mess up to get sent off. Like, this has been doing it for hundreds of years. Why are you trying to change it? And I feel like it's just something that they run out of ideas, because I feel like they're still trying to do the whole Super League crap, and like they're just trying to piss off the fan base of every team and just the sport in general. And I feel like if England does, the FA do this, it was just the rest of the world is just going to laugh at them. Like, the fact that the MLS can sit there and make fun of it. That right there, there's burns. Like, how you're going to have MLS fans talking crap. Like, okay, have fun.
I think though, if it does happen for that goalkeeper switching out the striker, Liverpool are going to be fine because anything Darwin Núñez touches hits the post, so there'll be nothing getting past it. It'll be great. Well, Alan, here's the thing though: if the FA can't do it on their own, it has to go through the IFAB, which means everybody has to do it. Then, I have been a resident in this country, this wonderful country, for 18 years. But I get the impression sometimes that because there's an influx of American owners into soccer all over Europe, there seems to be a movement to make soccer more palatable to Americans by making it almost American. But it's done so well without that. I've seen from scrambling to find a game on ESPN in 2005 to literally being able to pick and choose not only what game I want to watch on a Saturday, but what camera angle I get to watch it from. The game is done well over here. There's no real need to chase the American dollar any more than they've done. Am I right in that? Is there some sort of movement to try and make this game more popular in this side of the world, the only country where it's not the number one sport, except for maybe cricket in India, Pakistan? I think that actually is the number one sport there. But it's globally the biggest sport in the world by far. It doesn't need more dollars unless you're greedy for more dollars and they're going into your pocket. What do you think?
I think they are trying to make it more Americanized, although it is kind of weird that they're taking a page out of a Canadian sport that's more popular in Canada to do so. But it's this influx of American owners. It's not even just soccer though, and I hate to move away from the topic of football, but F1 is doing it too, where they're trying to get a fourth race in the Americas, in the US, should I say? And just I think a lot of these European institutions, as far as the sports, are trying to do everything the American way. One, because of they're trying to get that almighty American dollar, and two, because they have a bunch of American owners that run these leagues and run these teams, and they want this closed system that they've had for ages, thanks to how baseball was allowed to just do whatever it wanted to do in the 1800s when it first came up. They shut down the NL and the AL, shut down all these leagues, and then they combined to form their one league, and it was a closed system. And that was, from that point on, American sports was closed systems, and that's what they want here. And then we're gonna, if that's what they want to do to soccer, they're going to kill soccer.
Yep.
On that F1 thing, I can't see that working because Formula One drivers turn right. I don't see how that's going to work over here.
Oh, NASCAR has actually moved over to a. No, I'm kidding.
It can only move forward.
They got Watkins Glen.
They got Watkins Glen. Chicago.
Because this year Chicago race, I feel like they're punishing the rest of the world, even though that's another big world sport, trying to bring it to the US. They want like I said, the money is the television is what I think is what truly they want. They don't really care about the people going to it. Because I think the Vegas race, the cheapest ticket was $2,500.
Yeah,
they were looking for just TV revenue. Truly, like how you said, Micah, it's becoming Americanized, unfortunately, as much as I hate it. But
yeah,
because when you think about it, the blue card is just another symptom, along with the Super League, which we talked about, which Al mentioned, is a closed system, and also the drive to bring salary caps into European football, which I always found was funny. Because no salary caps is literally the most capitalist thing you can do. I think soccer is way more capitalist than the American sports are.
Yeah,
and it always makes me laugh that how American sports fans call soccer the socialist sport, but it's actually literally the most capitalist thing. I'm the most talented player in the world. Thanks. I'll have $1 billion to pay for your club. Thanks. You don't get that anywhere else. So I would say then, if we take a straw poll for the three of us, we're not in favor of the blue cards at all, are we?
Nope.
And essentially anything that gives Howard Webb an opportunity to mess things up even more is probably not something we want to support.
The rest are bad right now. Imagine them giving a blue card. What happens if they give 4 players blue cards? What are you supposed to do?
Yeah,
they haven't discussed that part. They didn't say there's a limit. What happens if 2 or 3 people get blue cards?
It's fly goalie then.
What are you supposed to do?
Back.
We're just gonna start playing
the entire
They
The
take
entire-
the goals away and they put 2 jumpers on the 18-yard line, 2 sweatshirts.
The entire back four gone.
Yeah.
Blue line, blue card.
So here's what we'll talk about then before we go on to the games for the weekend. Kylian Mbappe is going to leave Real Madrid or PSG at the end of the season. I may have done a Freudian slip there because Real Madrid seems the most likely destination for him. It's his kind of club. He's almost made for them. But let's talk fantasy nonsense for a bit for us three. He's clearly a player that would add to any team in the Premier League, including City. The dread scenario for me would be Mbappe going to City and them also having Haaland. And I think that's just the end of it for everybody then at that point. Like, I'd actually support the Super League just to get them out. Yep. But is number one, is he affordable for anybody other than maybe Bayern or Real Madrid, maybe Barcelona, because they financially wrangle everything to make sure that they can pay for players. And then, we'll deal with it down the road legally when we all go to prison. Or, as has been rumored on the Liverpool sites for a long time, he's a Liverpool fan. So he might end up in the Premier League, and if so, is City the only club that can afford him, and D put up with his drama crap that happens in the background all the time, apparently? Shay, what do you think?
So the biggest thing with it, like I said, it's in his court. He's going to be on a Bosman, so he's a free transfer. Truly, PSG messed around and didn't capitalize on the money that they could have got. So truly, it's just going to come down to wages, and I feel like a lot of these teams will be able to, since like I said, the no salary cap, they're going to find a way to get him in there. I feel like his signing bonus and sponsorship money is where he's going to make all the money. But how you said, I think truly for fantasy, if Newcastle would literally somehow they have the money to do it, because like I said, they don't have to pay a transfer fee, so that truly wouldn't affect financial fair play. Theoretically, they could give him, say, oh, we're truly paying him $100,000 a week. And then under the side, the Saudi government's over here. Here's $1 million that we're giving you in sponsorship money. And as an ambassador, they could do that. But I think his top two choices, how you said, he is a Liverpool fan. If Liverpool and FSG have the money to do it, that would be a huge thing for you to do. And then Real Madrid is obviously his top choice. And they would probably end up doing it more. Having him and Vicinius would be absolutely deadly duo. So going to City, I don't know. I just don't see him going there. That's all against his play style. Like, you're going to go to Pep and you're just going to become a machine. I don't know if he wants to do that.
I think, though, the one thing that would say, even in the fantasy world, that would rule Liverpool out is Klopp not being there. Had Klopp been there, I would have said, yeah, that would be a thing that could even a cynical Liverpool fan could dream about. But not knowing who's going to be there is probably not going to put things in Liverpool's favour. But to circle back again, then, for Newcastle, I don't think he's going to go to Newcastle if Eddie Howe is the manager. And Stuart Tyndall, or whatever his name is. So they can rule that out unless they're going to bring in somebody big like to work with him. But Alan, what do you think? I mean, obviously you would love him, I'm sure, at Arsenal. But would he be a player for what Mikel Arteta is building there? He's building an organic team. Would he be too much? Would he be like the Faustino Asprilla signing that Newcastle made under Kevin Keegan, where he was supposed to be the missing piece, but it was all about him and it ruined everything that was good about Newcastle at the time? Would that be the case for Mbappe? Is he too much of a talent that it would actually ruin all the good work that has been done so far?
I think, if I'm being realistic here, and as much as I will get to the fantasy side of this as well, but as realistic as I want to be right now, I think as great as a player as he is, and as much as he will change the dynamic of a team for maybe the better, I think maybe the way that Arsenal has been built over the last 5 years with Arteta has been organic and through the youth academy and like youth players that he's brought on and brought players that, can change and bring on, great things to Arsenal. Bringing on someone like Mbappe, especially at the price tag that he's going to command, is going to upend that locker room so fast that it's not going to be pretty. It's going to be bad. It might look good on paper for a little bit, but Arteta wants to build something that lasts, not something that burns out within a season or two. So I don't foresee it happening. Now if let me go into the fantasy. Mbappe, Think about it for a second. You could be joining the greats of French football by going to Arsenal and doing well and doing great and playing along in this system and just listening to what Arteta says and do everything in your power to play as one of the greatest players ever on one of the greatest teams of all time. Another second.
Would you give him that coveted 14 jersey if he showed up?
We give him the number 14. He'd be amongst legends. He'd be great. He would win titles, Champions Leagues, everything with Arsenal and Arteta, and that's not going to happen. He's better off going around.
Let me put my sales pitch now, Killian. If you go to Anfield, you'll be joining 6 times Champions League winners, European Cup winners, 19 times league winners. And if you want to remember what it was like to live in the slums, you could just walk across to Everton Stadium and sit in that for 20 minutes. It'll be great. But I think overall, though, Mbappe's probably going to go to Real Madrid. They're probably the only ones that can afford everything that goes around them. But it's nice to dream sometimes. It's nice to dream. So let's just look at the fixtures for next week. We have, apart from the games that our 3 clubs are involved in. So Brentford, Liverpool, Aston Villa, Fulham, and then Arsenal, Burnley. What games stick out there for you, Shay, that are important, possibly season changing, maybe even season defining?
Yep, I would say Man City Chelsea is going to be a good one. I'm hoping, as much as I know that they're at the top, but just Chelsea just to keep putting salt in the wound. I would love for City to absolutely demolish them. It would just be fun for everybody. I know for the points wise, I wouldn't for you too, but just to see Chelsea's demise is always fun. Honestly, I think the Newcastle Bournemouth game, like I said, both teams are kind of, Newcastle's at that stage. Are they going to keep up what they want? This is the game that they need to win. They could do it. West Ham Forest, we'll see. They just come back with a huge loss. Forest with that tie or a close game with Newcastle, they're kind of on that new manager bounce. We'll see what happens. And then maybe, I'll do the shock one for you. Watch Luton Town win 3-1.
You took mine.
Alan, what games stick out for you? Well, I mean, I don't want to limit your options without saying Manchester City and Chelsea, but it is kind of the obvious big game. But let's talk about for us two that are at the top as well, challenging. Even a draw in that game between City and Chelsea would be massive for the league campaign, wouldn't it?
It would be great. It would equalize things a bit too, because they have that game in hand, and we do know that if they do win that game in hand and keep the points that they have, like they'll immediately take first, and then it's the title race to chase down City, which is not fun at all. It's not a fun.
We know.
Oh, I know you know, and we found out last year. Because once they're in front, right? And it's hard to take them down. When Liverpool won the league that season, they won it from being on top the entirety of the season. Yeah. For us, we were chased down, and we, due to our lack of experience in these younger players, they folded at the end. That's what happens. But as far as our results is concerned, it'd be great to see. I could see Arsenal beating Burnley, Liverpool beating Brentford. Chelsea can definitely get a point, or even get all 3. Who knows? I could see
Pochettino has to win a big game at some point.
He has to. Yeah,
got to
one day.
Let me ask you about Everton Crystal Palace. That could be a huge game for both clubs. We talk about Everton going down, but they're only going down potentially because of the points deduction. If you add those points back in, they're solidly mid-table. It must be frustrating for Sean Dyche and the Everton players to be playing their hearts out every week. I like Sean Dyche as a coach. He's not going to change the tactics of soccer by any stretch, but he gets his teams to play a certain effective way. But it must be heartbreaking every week to pull wins out of the bag, knowing that not only do you have the 10 points to make up, but you might lose some more at the end. So it's kind of bittersweet in that sense. From the human Steven Spielberg angle, there's a sad story in there somewhere that I might manage to squeeze a tear out one day, 20 years from now. But for Palace as well, like things, who knows what Roy Hodgson's health situation is right now. We hope he's doing okay. Let's hope he hasn't passed away overnight from this show, because it's going to be out of date by then. But they are collapsing, and that there is a lot of turmoil in the fan base there. But for the relegation battle, as much as we focus on the top 5 and 6, Everton Crystal Palace could be a big game for that, couldn't it, Shay?
Yep, I would say so. Yeah, like I said, I mean, we don't really know how they're going to come out. If anything, you think the team would probably come out with extra passion, like, hey, your coach is in the hospital. We don't know the true effects of it. So, maybe they'd squeeze this one out for him. But like you said, if they lose and Everton win this, Crystal Palace are going to be in that question.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because they have a very talented team. It's just they have not been clicking this year. So I would say that's a pretty important game, for both teams, because it gives Everton that chance to get out of the relegation zone and kickstart their survival, and then it has a chance to suck Crystal Palace in, and with no coach, I don't know who's going to take over for him, and they could be in that bottom 3 come into the season.
Yeah.
Alan, it's Crystal Palace is obviously a London rival for you guys. Would it delight you to see them be, or are they one of the irrelevant London clubs like Leyton Orient for Arsenal fans?
I have a little soft spot for Crystal Palace, to be honest with you. There's a few the Crystal Palace fans that come to the Globe to watch games, and we cheer them on whenever they do well. I would hate to see them get relegated. I honestly, I think their fan base is also fed up with what's going on over there. We've seen the protests and the signs, and the disappointment in how they've handled the club. No, I don't even think none of it's the fault of Roy Hodgson's, and unfortunately he's in the hospital and he's about to. And I'm looking at this report. You guys have brought it up, to me just now, and it sucks that he's in the hospital, and it looks like they're going to replace him as well permanently in this. It sucks. It sucks for Crystal
Maybe he's gone for workman's comp before he gets fired.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, no, it sucks all in general for them, and I hope that they can pull out of this. I don't like Everton at all, so I'm with you. I like to see Everton go down.
I think apart from our own games, I think there's some juicy ones there for the neutral to watch. But of course, Manchester City, Chelsea will probably be the one we all have our eyes on. So let's all hope Chelsea manage to pull something out of the bag to keep things interesting for everybody else. Oh, yeah. It's always good to see City lose as well. We're not going to mention Luton United because I'm pretty sure I could use that to cure my insomnia, that game. But let's hope Luton do the business there as well with the short shorts from the 80s. So it just remains to say thank you, Shay, and thank you, Alan. It was a pleasure talking to you tonight.
Pleasure.
I believe the show should be back at its normal time slot with Tamucha back hosting next week. For the American Scouser TV fans, we have our stuff coming on the weekend, the post-match, pre- and post-match. And then we have our shows next week as usual, the Monday podcast, the Thursday podcast, which is the coolest one because I'm on it, and it also has the most handsome people, apart from your good selves, of course. For the EPL panel show with your luxurious hair that I don't have and I'm very jealous of. But I'm just going to tell you about It Comes to Us All.
It
comes to us all.
Eventually,
I know my uncles. I've seen them. They're bald. It's coming for me in my 50s. So,
but yes, it was a great chat tonight. It just goes to show. I love the thing about the EPL panel show, especially having watched the Super Bowl and the interaction of fans after that. Soccer is just it's the best sport in the world because it brings so many people together despite the rivalries, not because of them. Although we all hate United. So it's just so weird. There's an exception to every rule. But Shay, have a good weekend. Good luck in your game. Alan, have a good weekend and good luck in your game as well. And hopefully we'll all come back next week laughing at Manchester City because that's
there we go.
I'm just ready to say peace out. Have a good one. Enjoy your weekends. And here's some hip music for you guys. That's not 1940s jazz.